Exercise 2.6b. Questions 1 through 3. Listen to part of a lecture in a botany class. The professor is discussing photosynthesis.
The complex process inside a leaf takes energy from the sun and uses it to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars. During this process, photosynthesis, plants convert light energy into chemical energy. All leaves carry out photosynthesis in basically the same way. First, the pores on the leaf's outer skin open up and take in molecules of carbon dioxide. Water absorbed by the roots is transported upward through the plant, and it enters the leaf through its stem. Carbon dioxide and water, these are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Once carbon dioxide and water are present, photosynthesis can begin. The chemical reactions of photosynthesis take place in two stages: the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. When sunlight shines on a leaf during the light-dependent stage, its energy is absorbed by molecules of chlorophyll, which you all know is the pigment giving a leaf its green color. The light energy absorbed by the chlorophyll is used to split the hydrogen and oxygen in the water. Then, during the light-independent reactions, hydrogen from the water combines with carbon dioxide and forms carbohydrates, including the sugar glucose, but also other molecules that are rich in food energy for the plant. In the process, excess oxygen is released to the outside air through the leaf's pores. Finally, the plant transports the products of photosynthesis. Microscopic veins in the leaf carry the food out through the stem and into the cells of the plant. This process continues all throughout the growing season, that is, as long as the leaves remain green.
Number 1. Which of the following best describes the organization of the lecture? Number 2. What must be present for photosynthesis to begin? Number 3. The professor briefly explains what happens during photosynthesis. Indicate whether each sentence below is a step in the process. Questions 4 through 7. Listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class. The professor is talking about stating laws in the science of psychology.
Psychology is a relatively new science. Like other sciences, psychology must be able to state laws. A law is a way of organizing knowledge about something so that we can make predictions. When enough knowledge is gained about a subject, a scientist can state precisely what will happen under certain conditions. We experimental psychologists are interested in developing laws about human behavior, so we'll be able to understand and predict what people do and why they do it. Of course, to develop laws about human behavior, we must assume there's some regularity to it. We can't be psychologists without making the assumption that behavior follows certain patterns. One of the major laws psychologists have discovered is called the law of effect. The law of effect states that whether or not a person will repeat a behavior depends on the effect that behavior has. If an action is rewarded, it's likely to be repeated. If the action is not rewarded, or if it's punished, it's not likely to be repeated. How do psychologists state laws? First, using available knowledge, a psychologist makes a hypothesis about behavior. Then the psychologist tests the hypothesis through an experiment. But even if the experiment proves the hypothesis was correct, it's not yet a law. It's just the beginning of the work. To arrive at a law that will apply to all humans, many repetitions of the experiment must be conducted under different conditions. Only repeated verification, especially proof that the behavior can be predicted, will result in a law.
Number 4. According to the professor, why are psychologists interested in developing laws? Number 5. According to the professor, what assumption do psychologists make? Number 6. Which behavior illustrates the law of effect? Number 7. The professor explains how psychologists develop laws. Summarize the process by putting the steps in the correct order. Questions 8 through 10. Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
There are lots of different wetlands, from marshes to swamps to bogs. The flow of water through a wetland determines the types of plants that grow there. A marsh is a wetland where the soil is regularly or permanently saturated with water. Because of the continuous presence of water, marshes usually don't contain trees or shrubs. Marsh vegetation is usually soft-stemmed or herbaceous, for example, grasses, sedges, and mosses. Wetlands are among the richest of all biomes. Animal life is highly diverse and includes an array of insects, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Because marshes are so biologically productive, an abundance of dead plant and animal material, energy-rich organic matter, enters the food chain each year. And much of this energy-rich biomass is broken down by bacteria and water fungi. The water in marshes may become tea-colored or dark brown because of the organic acids from the decaying vegetation. In the past, humans have viewed these marshes and most wetlands as the source of mosquitoes, bad odors, and disease. Humans have destroyed a lot of wetlands, mostly to make way for agricultural development. Now, however, we recognize the ecological importance of wetlands, and we're putting a lot of research into figuring out how wetlands can be restored.
Number 8. According to the professor, which type of vegetation grows in marshes? Number 9. The professor briefly describes a biological process that occurs in a marsh. Indicate whether each sentence below is a step in the process. Number 10. Why have so many wetlands been destroyed?